Hi and welcome. During the next few minutes I'd like to show you how to create a striped lawn like you can see right here. I'd like to take a universal approach so that it works inside Advanced Render and also inside Vray, and you should be able to transfer this technique to other renderers too. It also doesn't matter if you're using 3D grass geometry like you can see in the picture, or if you're using a simple texture put on the ground object. This doesn't matter, it works in all cases. Here we can take a look at the scene. We have a simple plane object, 5 by 8 meters, a MoGraph cloner cloning two patches of grass, and a random effector. The cloner object is set to object. We should probably change the clones from iterate to random. And then we use our plane object ground inside the MoGraph cloner so that it starts to scatter the objects onto the surface of the ground object. In this case, we needed about 3,000 clones to reach the density you were able to see a few seconds ago. Depending on the orientation of the objects you're cloning, you have to rotate them inside the transform settings, and I slightly scaled them up. Now we want to add stripes to our lawn. I'll turn off the cloner for now, create a new material, go to the color channel texture and add a gradient in here. When working with Advanced Render, you actually could use such a 2D gradient, but I like to use a 3D gradient, so I'm changing to a 3D linear. This is because in some cases the 3D gradient is simply more universal. Now we'll adjust the stripes. You can see the stripes directly in the editor window, but be careful when working with a 3D gradient. The preview is not correct, so you have to do a little test render to be sure how the result will look like. And this is actually about the size I'm looking for. If you want to change the size of a 3D gradient, you have to work with the start and end values. If you'd like the stripes to be aligned in this direction, you simply could change this to 0, 0 and go over there, do a little test render. Now our stripes are running in this direction. If you want the stripes to be larger, simply increase the size right here. So now it's going from -200 to 200. This should result in stripes being twice the width of the old stripes. But I'll go back to the one right here. And by the way, if you want to have diagonal alignment of the stripes, you could use something like this. So probably I'll just go with this diagonal arrangement. Now I'll increase the turbulence a little bit, reduce octaves to 2. We don't need that. Detail. So now you can see that the scale of the turbulence is a little bit small. I like to increase that scale. Usually you would increase that number, but this doesn't help. But if you reduce this number, you'll see that you get those bigger waves inside the turbulence. So I'll reduce this number a little bit down to 5% in that case, and now I'm fine with the result. So we have a gradient which is creating nice stripes, and now we would like either our ground texture to show these stripes or our 3D grass objects to show these stripes. First, let's assume we have a ground shader. That one is brown. Let's say we have a green, either shader or texture. I'll make it a little bit brighter. Then you could simply take the gradient from your temporary material, click this little icon, copy channel, go to the ground channel, paste channel, then set it to multiply the mix mode, for example, reduce the strength, and you'll have stripes in your terrain. A better way probably, or you also can simply set to normal and mix the gradient in just as you like. Or if you have a more complicated setup, you also could use a layer shader and then apply the gradient inside the layer shader. But in our case, or in this case, I'd like to use this gradient for our 3D grass objects. So I'll return this back to a brown, dark brownish color for our ground terrain. So this is our soil. So the grass objects that we have use 4 materials, 3 green ones and 1 brownish. Select the first one, go to texture, click layer. Now the bitmap or the shader that you had before is put inside a layer shader. Layer shaders mostly use the same concept that you probably know from Photoshop, for example. So we have our default bitmap or shader right here. Now we copied our 3D gradient earlier, so we just click shader, go down to paste channel, and then you can multiply this 3D gradient on top of your default bitmap or default shader. So you can see the preview right here. And now you have to do this for the other materials too. So I'll select material 2, texture, choose layer, go inside the layer shader, paste channel, set to multiply 20%. I'll do this for the other 2 materials too. So now all materials of the grass objects use a layer shader, and inside the 3D gradient is multiplied on top of the bitmap. I remove the temporary material from our ground object so that we get our brownish color. Then we turn on back the cloner object, the MoGraph cloner object, and do a fast test render. So here you can see the stripes. It's not very clear at this stage, the effect. So if you want the stripes to be stronger, you simply have to increase the multiplication value of the 3D gradient. We can do this right now. Just go into your layer shader, increase multiply. I'll use a strong value right now. This is usually too strong. Set the values to about 50% in that case. And then we can do another test render. So this time the effect was stronger. And actually that's it. We used the 3D gradient, multiplied it on top of the default shaders or bitmap textures, And then we got our nice stripes. This worked both on the ground object or on our three objects, three grass patches that we cloned onto the terrain. Instead of multiplying the gradient on top of our bitmap, it's sometimes better to use a slightly different approach. Turn the value back to 100%. Change from multiply to layer mask. You have to go all the way down in this menu. Then right click the filter shader right here or your bitmap, click copy channel, click shader, paste channel. And now you simply can alter the colors, the brightness, the darkness, hues, whatever, with help of the filter shaders. For example, I'm using one darker, more greenish color, and here we use a brighter color. Let's say the darker one should be more saturated, whatever. Totally up to you. So now the 3 gradient acts as layer mask and mixes those two colors, bitmaps, to create the stripes. Of course, we could do this for the other materials too. I'll just use that one right here, change to layer mask, set back to 100, copy the original bitmap or shader, paste it, and then change the colors to my liking. It's a little bit extreme, of course, what I'm doing right here, but this way you'll see the stripes a little bit better. We could do this for the others too, but I'll just leave them, and then we'll do a little render. So here we can see the rendering. As I mentioned before, the effect is too strong, but I think you can see that it works pretty nice, simply using the 3D gradient as multiplication shader, or use it as layer shader to blend two different bitmaps or two different filtered shaders into each other, and so you can create nice stripes in your lawn. So thanks for watching and happy rendering.